Hello, YouTube. This is a theory on how UFOs can fly that I've been working on for years. We would start with a superconducting levitation, which is locked in space, using a superconductor that is supercooled using liquid nitrogen or liquid helium. Then placing the superconductor over a permanent Earth magnet, track allows it to be locked in space by causing a magnetic field to be squeezed when passed through or over the superconductor, causing it to be locked in space. uh, what we have is about 12 years ago this was discovered, but we still have yet to see any practical uses come from any companies. So I've theorized for many years on how this crude technology can be used to be advanced to the point a UFO advanced to the point a UFO could use it to maneuver or float in space with very little power being used to levitate the objects in space, utilizing the heliosphere outside our planet's atmosphere, and or combined with the planet's geomagnetic fields. This could prove to be a very valuable yet weak asset to buoyancy a spaceship in a very similar fashion to a ship on water. As for how it would have to be implemented is to have the most likely multiple points, or less likely one major point, where there is a superconductor that is supercooled inside a chamber on a 360-degree axis, allowing a ship to maneuver in any direction almost any instant depending on speed. Now, if it was a fixed object, you would need a point for each axis you're going to fly on, making it not a practical design. A large single point on an axis is plausible due to weight, size, quantum walking force, but less plausible due to a single failure point can cause a crash. So the design could be multiple points with enough electromagnetic controlled force to compensate for smaller thrust points. Would also compensate for potential failure in flight systems in a single thrust point. The plausibility of organic creatures within such a craft is completely unlikely due to the G-forces and videos of UFOs being captured, unless they somehow found a way to manipulate gravity itself, allowing the serious reduction of G-forces applied at the speed seen. With that in mind, now we focus to the ships being completely controlled by AI systems. The most plausible reasoning is that these beings are potentially about 600 years ahead of us due to the design of craft handles, but more likely 100 to 200 years ahead of us in technology, so they are past the point of sending out satellites or probes and have been sending out AI-controlled probe ships. Once these AI probe ships find what is likely to be a life-sustaining planet, it is sent to investigate. If it finds life, it will not interfere and only observe. Even we as a people fear war of worlds becoming reality, but with how they have acted for 100+ years, it is unlikely they will attack. But wait till they figure out if we will be hostile towards them. Their objective is to study us with little interference, including avoiding military craft conflicts. They seem not to want to be seen as hostile, but at the same time do not wish to interfere with our history as much as possible, or getting a hold of their technology. Once a planet with life on it is reached, the plausible thing is to figure out how far we have or can travel based on our technology and create a return station somewhere close outside our solar system to recharge systems and transmit data back to their home world. It was an interesting thing that a guy found a few weeks ago at one of the crash sites was a chunk of pure aluminum at the Roswell crash site. So the explanation of using pure aluminum would be that the ships spend most of their time outside of an atmosphere, so they don't actually need to be anodized, making it a cheaper method of creating a craft that is used for space exploration. So Currently, we are creating a miniature sun on Earth. The thing is, the sun is powerful enough to transmutate materials, i.e. gases like helium, from two hydrogen atoms together to produce helium. It's basically helium plus, or hydrogen plus hydrogen converts over into helium plus energy. If we used a miniature sun on a ship to convert water, hydrogen to helium, and energy, this allows for the helium to be compressed into liquid and used to supercool the superconductors for flight stability. Whereas the excess energy can be used to run high efficient focused lasers to operate the miniature sun's conversion systems, allowing it to use both fission and fusion, like a cylinder getting pushed down and then pushed back up by another cylinder to keep a rolling energy to momentum mechanic, whereas this is energy to energy. Confinement materials for that reactor would have to require the ability to withstand high temperatures and neutron bombardment without degradation. Plasma-facing materials, which are PFMs, which are typically tungsten, is used for its high melting point and strength. Beryllium is used in some designs for its ability to withstand heat and not absorb neutrons. Structural materials would be made out of alloys of tungsten, such as tungsten with rhenium or tantalum, are considered due to their high strength radiation resistance. Vanadium alloys are another option due to their strength and resistance to neutron embrittlement. If we go over the coolant system and breeder materials, lithium-based ceramics can be used as a blanket around the reactor to breed tritium and absorb neutron radiation. Liquid metals such as liquid lithium or lead lithium alloy are considered for their ability to transfer heat away from the reactor and breed tritium. For insulation and shielding, ceramic materials like beryllium oxide or silicon carbide are used for thermal insulation and radiation shielding. Superconducting magnets. Niobium, titanium, or niobium tin alloys are used for superconducting magnets that create the magnetic fields for confinement. These materials are chosen on His abilities are chosen based on their ability to withstand extreme temperatures, radiation, and mechanical stresses over long periods of operation. Development of these materials continues to be a crucial aspect of advancing fusion technology. Fuel supply. Deuterium can be extracted from water, but tritium, another fusion fuel, is radioactive and must be bred from lithium in the reactor. If this system was put into a ship, plus G-forces witness, the plausibility of a living organic being becomes non-existent inside the ship. If this system could not be plausibly scaled down and used within a ship, which the dictation of scaling and the laws of conservation allow it at one hydrogen atom for the fusion of two proton into deuterium, the energy release is approximately 0.42 megavolts or million electron volts, where each deuterium to tritium fusion event releases 17.6 million electron volts. Hydrogen isotopes like deuterium and tritium are fused together to form helium, releasing large amounts of energy. So essentially, you by law should be able to scale down a sun to the size of a softball and be able to generate within the space of a baseball a few million volts, if not potentially more. If it's not plausible on a ship, it could just be set up at a local location where hydrogen and lithium can be extracted from surface materials, converted to energy, and used as fuel. This system would require conventional heat capturing steam systems, which would also require hydrogen. They say that it gets slightly more power output compared to the input, which was also thought to be impossible until you get into the quantum mechanics of understanding how it works. It's hazy if you would. Control system. Okay. So back to the control system. Supercooled superconductor with modulation of electromagnetic manipulation will allow the force manipulation of magnetic fields being pushed through the system, potentially allowing you to ride magnetic fields like a submarine using gas bladders to raise and lower itself on the z-axis, whereas with electromagnetic superconducting, it could potentially act as this system does. Along with how a submarine uses a propeller to push forward, we would be manipulating magnetic fields to move ourselves while locked in space with zero friction, exception of gases and surface tension or friction. In theory, it should work. There is also the aspect using quantum levitation locking locally, for example, all within the ship, so it would not have to act upon external sources like the magnetic field of Earth or the heliosphere. The system would have the base, Earth's magnet, nested inside the ship, then with the ship built around it, with the quantum levitation basically defying the laws of gravity, allowing the magnet to propel the structure around it effortlessly. The system being on a 360-degree gyro makes sense because you'll need to lift the axis at a moment's notice. Shift the axis at a moment's notice. For example, the sharp, high-speed angular ships of flying crafts that defy logic at Mach 3, supersonic, 921 miles per hour to 3,836 miles per hour. Now comes the figuring out how a 360-degree gyro can be created to support supercooling, since you will have to be feed liquid helium to it. The gyro would have to operate on a magnetic track to make it float and be able to freely rotate without mechanical parts that could freeze up from supercooling in an enclosed area within it. An aluminum chamber so it can have tracks on it for gyroscopic controls while housing a superconductor being supercooled by liquid helium supplied by the reactor. This would also allow for a large ambient temperature in the surrounding area to help This would also allow for a lower ambient temperature in the surrounding area to help regulate computerized silicon-based systems. Now, to clarify, the ship would be locking itself in space, so the powerful electromagnetics would be finely tuned to push or pull the ship, similar to the fashion a monorail train pushes itself down a track of magnets. Exception, the track would be inside the ship, for one. A better analogy would be if you were inside a box with a rope, coming into it, and you were pulling the rope infinitely, pulling yourself up or forward while you can't see the rope outside the box anyway. Now we take a look at the AI. Just taking a whack in the dark for storage needed. The SSD with about 40 terabytes of storage. Granted, you could just stack a couple extra hard drives in there if the data density per sector couldn't be small enough. So the data collection rate for AI would be assuming the AI system is collecting data from various sensors like cameras, LiDAR, and other things. Continuously over a 48-hour period, the data rate can be very widely depending on the sensor specifications. So let's consider a hypothetical scenario. Sensor data. Suppose the AI collects high-resolution video data from multiple cameras, environmental sensor readings, and other telemetry data. A conservative estimate could be around 1 terabyte per day for high-resolution video and sensor data combined. field research data. If we consider that the AI is conducting field research for up to 2 days, 48 hours, the total data collected could amount to approximately 2 terabytes, 1 terabyte a day for 2 days. The AI model and system overhead. In addition to the raw data storage, the AI system itself would require storage for AI models for object tracking, navigation, and others, operating system and software applications, temporary data storage and processing buffers. For a sophisticated AI system operating in the field conditions, this overhead could range from tens to hundreds of gigabytes depending on the complexity of the AI models and software stack. Total storage estimate, raw data storage 2 terabytes for 48 hours of field research data, AI model and system overhead. Let's estimate an additional 100 gigs for AI models, software, and temporary storage needs. Now, if we cut down to the aspect on biology, the only reasonable example why they're gray is just to physiologically, psychologically be neutral-looking skinned robots using AI to control them as to not instill fear of what they look like, and it is just easier, cheaper to design a neutral look rather than design them to look like the actual race of beings that own them. I hope they all enjoyed this theoretical assessment of how UFOs may be able to fly. Hopefully it inspires a new generation to build these types of crafts. Bye, YouTube.